Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this series of videos we have started working on particular labs for DP300, which is for administering relational databases on Microsoft Azure certification exam. All the labs are available on the GitHub from Microsoft Learning, and I'll provide you the link to these videos, to these labs. So what we want to do in this particular lab, we're going to deploy the Azure SQL database, and we expect it should be done in about 30 to 40 minutes. The main objectives are over here. We're going to configure basic resources, deploy Azure SQL databases, then we'll connect to the SQL databases within Azure Data Studio, deploy an Azure database for Postgres SQL. A lot of the labs that comes from Microsoft that are available on GitHub, they have a scenario. And this one, as a database administrator or DBA for a fixes company called AdventureWorks, you are going to set up a new SQL database. You will also set up a virtual network endpoint to increase and simplify the security of the deployment. And Azure Data Studio will be used to evaluate the use of SQL Notebook for data querying and results retention. Finally, an Azure database for PostgreSQL will be deployed to support additional data system need. So let's get started. So everything starts with Azure portal and creation of resource group. Anytime you create a resource, you gotta use a resource group, right? So what we'll do, we'll go to Azure, we'll create a resource group first, and once that's done, okay, then we'll create a virtual network. So let's go here to our Azure environment. Let's get started. So you can search for a resource group. Resource group will show up in here. I have a whole bunch. I'm not going to use any of the existing one. I'm going to click on add, and if I click on add, it's going to give me a new window. I'm just going to say provide the new name of the resource group. East US is my favorite location, so I'm going to choose that one. And there we go. Now I'm creating the resource group. It took probably just a second to get there. I can click on this button right there, go to resource group. Now I have the resource group available, and here I can deploy anything I want. So let's go back. So next we're gonna create a virtual network, and let's see how the way they want us to configure. Here name is, this is the name that we're going to use. So it's very easy to deploy. You can also click within the resource group, like we are still here. You can just say network, virtual network that is what you are going to create. So just click on create, and it will automatically choose the resource group because I am deploying within the resource group. Okay, name is this, what they are asking us to do. I'm going to use the same East US for my deployment. Okay, region, select the same region, so I'm going to use the same one. So that all looks good. And next, click on the next IP address button, and looks like we are going to configure the IP address as well, maybe. So let's click on the IP address. The Azure will give you a default IP address space, and it will create a default subnet that would be a subset of this whole big IP address space. Like over here I have 65,536 address available. In this one I have 255. Okay, so let's say if they want to use a different set of IP address, so here leave the defaults for the IP4 address space. So they're saying, yeah, whatever you have is fine, don't worry about it. Edit the subnet button. So here, and expand the service drop down and click on Microsoft SQL. So here is where we're going to configure an endpoint. So here if you click on the default, and here if you see the services, here we are going to use most likely the SQL. Microsoft SQL is the only one that we're going to shoot. Just hit save. So let's come back, make sure that we are doing the right thing. SQL. Yeah. So what it is, in this subnet, you can only have this particular service running, and it will be available to you. Okay, let's see if they have any description. Editable, no, but that's what, like, if you want to have a subnet dedicated to a storage, you will create a subnet and use a Microsoft storage for that particular subnet. Now this subnet will be dedicated to SQL databases. Okay, so we got that. We didn't change the name of the subnet. Let me just make sure that it's not asking us to change the name. So we didn't change the name, so that's all looks good. So now I can create this virtual network. It will go through the validation. Once it's done, just hit and click create, and it should be created, and you can watch the deployment progress in here. And now it looks like it's done. Click on the resource. You can go there, and once you go there, you know that it did deploy properly. Over here it says that it's deployed under DP300 lab 2. That's what we expect. It's deployed in EastUS, makes sense. I got the address space for this, and if I go to my subnets, you should see a default subnet in there. And let's see, default subnet, if we click on it, we should have the service status Microsoft SQL, and it's successful. So everything looks really good. So let's come back. So now we can deploy an Azure SQL database. So to do that, you can do this: create a resource from marketplace. You can go to SQL database and then click on the create button to do that. So what we want to do, so I usually just go and just do SQL databases, like you see it's showed up over here. So I can also go right from here and do the add. That's what I end up doing for the most part. And once you have this window, now you can go and choose the resource group, which is DP300 lab 02. And here we need to choose and configure a little bit more stuff. So let's see the name of it. Name is AdventureWorks LT. So let's copy that one, and that's gonna be the database name of it. Server, now they're saying just create a new server. Okay, so here just do create a new server. Server name DP300 lab, and my initial is how they want to configure. So dash AB is the server name, and now we need to configure the login. So DP300 admin is the username. So let's go there, put it there. And for password, we have a very secret password over here, my friends. So let's get those. So both of them are in there. Location, I don't want to do anything. Hit OK. So now we have configured the database name, and we are creating a new server, and we have configured that one as well. Elastic pool, I don't know if so we don't use it for now. So we'll talk about elastic pool in a later part. So here compute and storage, everything else is probably default, and then I just need to say okay. So let's kind of look at it. So we have done all of that. Elastic pool, they're saying no, we didn't change it. Compute plus storage, click configure database. Compute plus storage, configure database. So they are saying just do some more configuration in here. So let's do that. So you have a lot of different options over here. Okay, general purpose, hyperscale, business critical, provision, and serverless. Okay, all kinds of options available for you if you want to create a SQL database. It's very powerful and feature rich. So let's see what we want to do. On the configure, click looking for basic standard premium. So there is a question looking for basic standard premium. So let's click on that one. And here you have even more options for basic, standard, or premium. So let's see which one they want us to select. Click basic and click apply. So we just want a basic. We're not going to do anything just for the lab. So click that one and hit apply. So now we just have a basic SQL database that we're gonna deploy. At this time, make a note of the server name and login info. You will use it in a subsequent lab. That's fine. Review the setting and then click on networking. So you can kind of look at it what you have. Next, you can go to the networking. And here, I bet that they're gonna ask you to configure one of the endpoint and connect to the subnet that we have created. So let's see. In here, so where is my network? Click networking. So we have reviewed all that and look at that. As I said, on the networking screen, the connectivity method, click the private endpoint radio button. And once you do that, you are going to add the private endpoint. And what endpoint are you going to add? You are going to create an endpoint. All right, let's see. Private endpoint. And here you have nothing. So you're going to add, click on the private endpoint button. And location is good. Target sub resource is good. Virtual network. And the default this looks good. So here I think I need to configure the name of it. So dp 300 SQL endpoint. So come over here and give you the name, and target sub resource SQL server is, look, it's already there. Virtual network lab 02 vnet virtual network. Now this one lab 02 vnet, and under this vnet we already had this subnet defined, so I don't think we need to change anything. Default 10.1.0.0.24 10.2.0.0.24, that is fine. This is the network that we created in our previous lab, so because you see this is the only network that's available. And once you do that, the private DNS region option can remain at default. Review the setting and click OK. So you come down here, don't do anything else, just say OK. Okay. So now I have the endpoint defined and everything looks good. And at this time you confirm the endpoint on the networking page and then click on the additional settings button. So it looks good. So let's hit next to additional settings, and here what else they're asking, this endpoint, adventure, production subscription, resource group, East US, all of that stuff. Confirm the endpoint appears. So this is not the one. So on the additional settings page, select the following option: use the existing data to sample. So what they're saying, so that means when we are going to deploy, a sample database will be deployed with this deployment. Okay, so it will create adventure work L3 will be created as a sample database. If you create none, nothing will be created. Backup, if you have a backup, you can provide the backup at this time, but we're just going to go with a sample. And then database collection, advanced data security, we're gonna say not now. Everything else looks good. So I think that's all we need to do, and this time you can click on the review and create. So there we go, and now it's it will go through some validation. I guess it's already done. Hit create, and again you can see how the deployment is going by looking at this notification bar. It should show up in here as well, and as I said, it showed up, and just you can kind of review what's going on. Now once it's deployed, we'll go to the resource. Okay, and what we are gonna do, we're gonna enable all Azure services access to the new server. And so let's give maybe a couple minutes for the deployment. As soon as it's done, we'll come back and continue with the lab. Alright everyone, looks like the deployment is done. It probably took about 3 minutes to get it done. So I'm just going to click on this to go to the resource, and you see this is now showed up. So let's see what we need to do next. From the SQL Server Database plate, click on the link for the SQL Server name in the top screen. So if you look at our server name, this is where they are asking us to go. So it showed up over here, so you can click on this one. So from the database, it's now we have gone to the SQL server itself. Okay, so on the SQL server object, navigate to the black firewall and the virtual network under security. So over here, what you need to do under security, you have the firewall and the virtual network. You just click on it, and here you can control how and who can connect to the server. So let's look at it. What do we need to configure? Now set allow Azure services and resources to access the server to yes. So allow Azure services and resources, we gotta make it yes. So let's come back over here. So this is the one. It's now by default it's no. We're gonna change it back to yes. We're not gonna change anything else. Deny public network access, minimum TLS version, we are not configuring any of that. Connection policy not configuring. Only this one, allow Azure services and resources to access the server. We are saying okay, yeah, let Azure services to access this guy. Okay, this still no, it all looks good, and click save. So that's on the server. Okay, who can access the server? Azure services can access the server. So we have done that, and now we need to connect to the Azure SQL database. Register SQL DB instance in Azure Data Studio. Now I don't have the Azure ADS from the lab VM, so let's see if we can get this installed in some place. Alright, it looks like the Azure Data Studio, we can download it. So what I'll do at this time, I'm gonna go to the Windows server that is running inside my Linux machine, and in here I'm gonna look for Azure Data Studio. Download is fine. So let's see, it says download and install Azure Data Studio. So let's just click on that one, and let's see, download Azure Data Studio. I'm just trying to find a use installer that is recommended, so let's just click on that one and see. It's the download has started. So as soon as it's done, it shouldn't take too long, it's going pretty fast. We will install the Azure Data Studio, and we're going to use the Data Studio to connect to the SQL database. So looks like this lab assumes that you're using a machine where you have this Data Studio already installed. Like if you're like me, where you do not have, this is the process that you're going to follow, and it's almost done. So in a couple minutes you will have that. So while it's downloading, let's look at what else do we need to do. So once we install it, we will launch it, and looks like the Data Studio looks pretty neat and clean, and we are going to install some extensions. It kind of looks like the Visual Studio Code, and we are going to connect to the SQL server, and we will provide the username and everything. The only thing that I'm not so sure that if I will be able to connect it to the machine using the virtual machine where I'm installing this particular Data Studio, because I did not provide access outside the Azure network to connect to the database. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We are gonna install, we're gonna go ahead and continue with the installation process like it's done. If we cannot, we're gonna deploy a virtual machine within Azure, and then in that virtual machine we're gonna also install this, and then if this connection fails, we're going to use that connection to connect it. So maybe a little complicated, but not really. So let's just start here, so at least you know how to install it. So install the Azure Data Studio. It should be just like any other Windows installation. So I'm just going through my like a desktop icon. Okay, so just install everything. It's not such a huge file, so I hope that it won't. I don't think it will take too long to install. Again, as I said, since we have restricted access to this to the subnet where we have the SQL database running, we may have trouble connecting to that one, but we'll see. So we'll at least know that if it's working or not. All right, so we have this, so let's launch it, and as soon as it launches, we can do our testing, right? So while it's launching, we can also go to our here, and from there I'm gonna go to the lab, so I can do copy paste stuff. So from here in this window, I'm gonna open up the lab. Let's go to the lab. Second lab is what we're doing right now, and in this lab, connect to the Azure SQL database. So this is what we are going to do. Okay, all right, so we have done all that. So we have launched this. Preview features are required in order to for extensions to be fully something. So here excuse me, so we have opened it. I didn't get that window that they're saying I might be getting. Okay, so I just logged in just directly in here. So let's see what else you do. When the Azure Data Studio opens, click on the extension button menu. So over here, that's my extension button. Okay, so from here, which extension do we want? We want post. So post, it's probably the Postgres SQL. So this experience is exactly same as Visual Studio Code, which I really like because I'm kind of used to Visual Studio Code. So now it's install button as the highlighted below. Okay, click on the connections button in the ADS in the left sidebar, and then add a connection button. So over here, so this installation is going on. So you can click on this button and click on the add a connection, and here you need to provide the server details and everything. In that server details, I'm gonna pick up this, put it here, and we know that here our server name is AB, and let's see, authentication is SQL login is what we're gonna use this time. Username, we have created a particular username we're gonna use, and then password, we have used a particular password that we're gonna use. So we have that, all of that. Now expand the database drop down to select that adventure. Can I do this? This is where I'm not sure if I can do this or not. I don't have that available here right now. Server name, if you're asked to add firewall rule to add your client IP to the server, click on add account to log into the Azure account. On create new firewall screen, select OK. Okay, so this is what they're saying. So add client IP, here is an Azure account, and let's see, add an account. Your client IP does not have access to the server, sign in. So server will remain. So what we will do, let's do the add an account. So it's adding an account. So let's go to the Google Chrome and let's see, I'm already signed in most likely, so let's click that one, and if I'm signed in, it should be able to add my account. Your account was added successfully. That's good news. You may close this page. So let's close the page. So let's come back in here. Now add my IP. So let's add my IP as well. So this all, so maybe now I have the other database available in here. It's still not available in there. Okay, so let's see what else we need to do in here. Okay, server group will remain on default name option. The name can be populated with a friendly name of the databases if desired. Review the setting and click connect. Okay, so let's see. So this one is still not available to us. Okay, so one other thing I want to verify quickly is the name of my server. So let's go home, and is the SQL database that we have just deployed. So SQL databases, I want to go and choose the SQL databases that we have deployed, and make sure my server name that I have, that server name is exactly correct. Okay, I'm actually going to copy this one and go over here, put it right there, and recent connection. Let me see if that one is hopefully done. Is there advanced? I don't need to do anything. Let's come back down. Maybe let's do connected this time. Now login failed. Copy details. I think that is my problem. I do not have I'm not connected to that particular server. So let's read our instruction one more time. Okay, and this is the problem that I see that I'm gonna have. Okay, what I think I'm having trouble, since I'm not in that Azure network, so my connection from my desktop virtual machine is not working properly. So the easiest way to fix that, what I think, is just go on and deploy a virtual machine in that particular resource group. Okay, so what I'll do, and just to be absolutely sure what I'm doing, I'm gonna go to the resource groups. Okay, in this, under the resource group, we're gonna go to this lab. Okay, here everything is going on at this time. Okay, and let's come back down. Come on, I just want to see what is going on in here. Okay, so we have two different things. What I'll do at this time, go to our, we have a SQL endpoint, right? So that is what I think is causing trouble for us. So what we'll have to do, let's look at the virtual network that we have. In this virtual network, we have only one subnet. Okay, I'm just gonna add another subnet, and I'm just gonna call it VM subnet. Okay, so I'm gonna keep everything else in here and hit OK, so that it is going to create another subnet for us. So I have two different subnets, and the other thing that I'm gonna do now, the next, is over here. I'm gonna add and try to deploy a virtual machine and see what happens. And I'm gonna use a 2016 data center is fine. I don't need the tutorial, so get rid of this. So just click on this, and deployment doesn't usually take very long, so we're just gonna virtual machine name Win2019. It's in the East US region. That all looks good. Username student. Okay, so I'm just gonna deploy a virtual machine. That port is open, that is fine. Go to disk. We're really not doing anything for the disk. Go to networking. This is where I want to configure something. Let's see if it's allowing us. Interesting. So it's saying that I can't even deploy. So I have two different virtual networks. So let's just deploy in that default network and see if it's gonna work for us. So that's all I need. Okay, and I'm just gonna try to create and see if I can deploy this particular virtual machine in that particular subnet. So I have the subnet where we have the database. I'm installing this particular virtual machine in that subnet only. And as soon as this deployment is done, we'll go and log into the virtual machine and do the same thing that we are doing with this, and then we'll go from there. Give me a few seconds. Alright, so this deployment is done. So we'll go to that virtual machine, and all I need to do is click on connect, download the RDP file, and there's click on RDP, it's right here. Then click on that one, it will open up the RDP connection. Here I'm going to provide my username that I created, put the password, okay, so we got that one. Okay, trust the certificate, and now we are inside the newly created virtual machine, and this is for the first time it's starting up. So let's get in there. Once it's there, we will reinstall this Azure SQL DB instance. Okay, so that's the only thing that we're gonna perform. You can say yes, network discovery, I'm okay with that. The server manager will open up. The only thing we're going to disable is the IE enhanced security thing. We're going to disable that, and then we'll go to the internet and download that same tool that we're going to install in this particular virtual machine, which is running in the same subnet where we have the database that is also running, and see if we have any success. Okay, so from here just go to the local server and IE enhance security configuration, click on this and just turn them off. Okay, once you do that, you can close this or just minimize it if you like, and then what we need to do, we need to go open up our Internet Explorer. Once it's up, we're gonna do the same thing. We will get the Azure SQL, Azure Data Studio is what we're looking for. So I'll say okay, and then we'll come over here, Azure Data Studio, download. So we're gonna do the same thing. So we have already seen how to do that. So where is it? Here. And we have already done this, so click on this, run. Alright, since we have done this already, I'm going to just pause the video not to waste your time. Alright, I have installed it, and it is just opening up, and we're gonna do the same thing over here. We'll look for Postgres, and we're gonna install it. And while it's installing over here, I'm gonna close some of this, and I'm gonna try to open my connection one more time and click on add connection. Now remember, this is where we are. This is inside a virtual machine that is running in Azure, and this is in the same subnet. Okay, so over here we are not in. So let's first see if I can copy and paste some stuff from here. If not, then we'll see. We'll go to this page from inside the virtual machine. So over here, server. No, I don't think it worked. Okay, so that's fine. All right, so here, if you see, this machine is in the same subnet. So I'm using the SQL server. I provide the server name, authentication, SQL login, username, password, and now if I click on this default, now I have the Adventure Networks database that was installed by default is now available. So that was the trouble. So just learn that since you have already configured a network that can only be accessed from within Azure, I was not able to access from my local virtual machine, although I have the same tool with me. So now I have everything that I need. So now I can hit the connect button. It should be connecting to the database right now. And look at that. So everything is working fine. So we have done this, all of that stuff. And all of this is now available to me. ADS will connect to the database and show some basic information about the database, plus a partial list of objects. And that is what you're looking at over here, right? A partial list of objects and the database. Everything looks great. And here are my tables. If you look at all of that, wonderful. So let's see if we need to do anything else. Maybe just take within this virtual machine, and let's go from here and see what else do we need to do. It's saying query Azure SQL database with SQL notebook. In Azure Data Studio, connected to the lab database, click on the new notebook. So over here somewhere we should have a new notebook right there, so click on that one. So I got a new notebook. Let's see, so this one, click on the plus text button to add new text box in the notebook. So click on the text button. So now you have a notebook, and within that notebook you can embed plain text to explain queries or result set. Enter the text top 10 customers by order subtotal. Okay, so let's cut that one and paste it in here. And what it did, making it bold if desired. Wow. Let me see. I don't know if it's bold would work, so I'm just gonna keep it this way. And then click on the plus code button to add a new code. Where is my plus code? So that is the plus code. So to add a new code button, and in that code we are going to add this particular code in there. So let's copy this, paste it in here, and then click on the blue circle with the arrow to execute the query. Blue circle with arrow. Where is my blue circle with arrow? Here, right there. Okay, so that should be querying, and this is the query. So we have the data available to me. This is the notebook that we are creating, so that's going pretty well. Click on the plus text button to add a new text cell. So it's text, new cell, so we have that again available. We can do top 10 ordered product categories, so we can do that over here. And then what we can do more code, and then I think we need to rearrange that I'm not doing properly maybe, but let's get this one. We're just getting some practice on running some queries. So if you run this query, it should give the results which are the top ordered products. Okay, click on the blue circle. So run cell, to run all cells in the notebook and present result, click on the run cells. So there should be, if you want to run everything, you can click on this. That will run all of the queries and give you the results back. Okay, so within the Azure Data Studio, save the notebook from file menu to D lab files and deploy Azure databases. This folder exists on the VM directory, so we don't have that, so we'll just save it just like Control S and notebook 0. I'm just gonna save it in my desktop, and there we go, I have saved the notebook. And the last thing, deploy an Azure database for the Postgres SQL database. So this one, what we can do, we can search for Postgres SQL in the search box. So if you copy this one and come back to our let's see, the Azure, am I still inside my Azure network is what I'm looking for. Come on. Okay, so we'll just do that from here. Okay, so the last thing, we have done all that, so we need to deploy Postgres SQL. So from here, let's go here, do Postgres SQL, and click on add. Okay, so Azure database for Postgres SQL, is that what we choose? Yeah, single server or hyperscale. Okay, single server, so create single server. Okay, and then complete the single server basic screen as follows. Same lab, server name is gonna be resource group same. That's not right. Server name must be unique. Server name paste AB. Okay, so that's good. And then data source none, location same location, version 10 or 11 is good. Click on the configure server. Again, we're going to click on the configure server. I'm going to use the basic and click OK. Click OK. Now again, we need the admin username. So this is my admin username, and admin password is still the same. So last time we deployed the SQL server. This time we are just deploying a Postgres SQL. Said create, it will create the database for us, and enable all Azure services to access the Postgres database. So in this one, once this deployment is done, is right now is validating. We'll go through the exactly same thing that we have done just a little bit back. Okay, Alright, this is still undergoing deployment. It's probably been a minute or so, so just give it a minute, or you can also check your deployment progress from the notification area or within this area. So just gonna pause for another few seconds. As soon as this is done, we're gonna do the same thing, I bet, and then we'll end the lab. Alright, it looks like the deployment is done, so I'm just gonna go to the resource, and again we gotta go and make sure that we gotta enable the Azure services to access the Postgres SQL. To do that, we're just gonna go to the connection security. So over here, connection security, and inside this one again, allow access to Azure services. We're just gonna say yes. Okay, so that's what we need to do, and save it. So now we can use this particular database within the studio. Okay, so that's all we did. Connect to the Postgres. So this is what we're gonna do using our data studio. So let's go back to our VM where I already have a database connection and the studio running. So let's see. So what we need to do with Postgres SQL extension install, which we have done. This extension is pre-installed, so what we want to do in the Azure VM connection, expand it, and we'll click on this new connection button. So let's over here connection, maybe just need to close this. I'm just gonna reopen this one, and here I'm gonna click on a new connection. So this time I bet I'm gonna use the Postgres, right? And this one we don't need. Where is my did I close my I did. Okay, alright, so let's go to that page. Alright, so I have got the connection type Postgres SQL, server name, authentication type password. Here's the username. Note that I have the domain as well included, and I'm going to change that to AB because that is not the right name, AB, and then keep them as default as per the instruction. And at this time I can click on connect. So let's see if that works. So connect. SSL connection is required. Please specify SSL option and retry. So do we have a SSL options anywhere? So let's see. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna come back to this database connection security, enforce SSL connection. I'm just gonna disable this for now and save this configuration because I don't wanna mess with the SSL connection setting at all for my test lab. So then I'm gonna go back over here, and here is how way you can set up your SSL connection. I'm not doing anything, and I'm just gonna say okay, and gonna try to connect it one more time and see if we have any successful. Server is not configured to allow IPv6 connection. Server not configured to allow IPv6 connection. So that is even weird. So let's see, what else do I need to check? Alright, what I'm gonna do this over here, I'm gonna try it one more time. If it works, it's good. If not, I'll let you guys to do some troubleshooting. It's getting pretty late for me, so I'll have to come back and do this at a later time. If it doesn't work, this is the last time I'm gonna try. Okay, so let me see, let me open up the data studio one more time, and new connection. We're gonna use the Postgres SQL server name. That's not the server name. Server name is this, and make sure that is the true server name. So go back to overview, dp300 lab to ab, Postgres Database Azure.com, d2300 lab to ab is change that to ab, and authentication password username is this, put it here, it's just gonna be ab, and password, get the password from here. Okay, so get the password, database name, nothing is needed. So all the lab is asking us to do a click on connect, and this is the error that I'm getting, server is not configured to allow IPv6 connection. So I'm not sure why it would even do that. I have a just regular IPv4 connection available to me. So at this point I'm not gonna try to do anything else, so I'll let you guys do the lab on your own. If you have a success with this one, just let me know, and if I get a success maybe tomorrow, I'll come back and let you guys know how I did that. So before I finish the lab, just to give you a quick recap what we have done, we have really learned how to deploy Azure SQL databases. So we deployed one SQL database, and then we deployed a Postgres SQL. We used the data studio, okay, to connect to the SQL. We had no problem. We had some problem connecting to the Postgres SQL that we are going to troubleshoot in the future. The main thing that I also want you guys to understand, since we enabled the service endpoint, we were not able to connect using our own virtual machine that is deployed in my local environment, home environment. I had to deploy a Windows machine in the same network, in the same subnet, and use that one to connect to these particular databases. All right, with that, I'm going to conclude this lab. We have completed everything except the very last end where I had trouble. So if you have success, please let us know. If not, good luck with the lab, and I wish you all the best for the exam. Thank you.